Welcome to today's deep dive. You know, when I was a kid, I actually had to keep a journal for school.
Oh, yeah, I remember doing those.
Right, but because the teacher checked it every Monday, I totally filtered it. I just wrote what I thought she wanted to see.
Naturally.
Yeah, and looking at our sources for today, we have these reflective notes from March 2026 alongside the biblical text of Matthew 26. It really hits me that we kind of never stop doing this.
We just upgrade the platform.
Exactly. We graduate from school journals to, curating our lives on social media, basically hiding the messy reality for likes. So our mission today is exploring that exact tension, the one between performative actions and authentic devotion.
It's a really deep topic.
It is, and I have to ask you, are people subconsciously treating their core beliefs and their spiritual lives like a curated feed just to avoid a negative review from the crowd?
I mean, absolutely. It's a tension that's really driven by our deep-seated need for social survival. If we look at the historical context of Matthew 26, that fear of public opinion literally dictates life and death decisions. Wow.
Yeah. You have the religious elites, the chief priests, and the elders meeting at the palace of Caiaphas. And they are actively plotting to murder Jesus.
But they're worried about PR, right?
Yeah, exactly. Their primary concern is public relations. They explicitly state, not during the feast, lest there be an uproar among the people.
So their morality is, completely outsourced to the crowd.
Totally dictated by it.
It's this chilling form of crowd-pleasing, honestly. But, it's easy to judge the elites. The alternative to that mindset is actually incredibly uncomfortable. Which brings us to the contrasting figure, the woman in Bethany.
Oh, right, at the house of Simon the leper.
Yeah. She walks into a room and pours an alabaster flask of extremely expensive ointment over Jesus' head. And the disciples just lose it.
They call it a waste.
Right. They argue it could have been sold for a large sum to help the poor. And honestly, just playing devil's advocate here, their pragmatic argument is it's highly seductive.
Oh, it makes perfect sense on paper. Right. Because to a modern ear, performative charity that actually funds a soup kitchen sounds a lot more responsible than, pouring out a year's wages on the floor.
I mean, well, sure. It's a perfectly rational argument if you're measuring value purely by utility. The disciples are basically looking at the situation through a spreadsheet.
A spreadsheet, yeah.
They're quantifying devotion. But that spreadsheet mentality, it fundamentally corrupts authentic devotion because it turns a relationship into a transaction.
Right, because then it becomes about the ego of the giver.
Exactly. When charity or faith becomes a metric to optimize or, a performance to be applauded, it basically ceases to be about the recipient. But the woman, she just completely shatters that metric.
She makes this deeply costly, sincere sacrifice right in front of people who are actively judging her for it.
Yeah, she doesn't care about the room's opinion at all.
And Jesus' reaction turns that whole spreadsheet logic completely upside down. He totally shuts down the practical critique.
He really does. He tells them not to trouble her because she's done a beautiful thing.
Right, he says she's preparing his body for burial. And he offers this really sobering perspective, saying that they will always have the poor with them, but they won't always have him.
What's so fascinating there is the psychological mechanism at play. Jesus is recognizing that her action wasn't optimized for public approval.
Or even, utilitarian efficiency.
Right. It was just a pure expression of love. And the profound irony here is just incredible. You have the religious leaders desperately trying to manage their public image.
Terrified of being canceled by the crowd.
Exactly. Yet history remembers them for their betrayal. Meanwhile, the woman ignored the crowd's judgment entirely. She wasn't seeking applause.
And Jesus declares her sincere, costly act will be remembered wherever this gospel is proclaimed in the whole world.
A timeless legacy from someone who wasn't even trying to build one.
That is wild. And, this isn't just ancient history. Think about your own routines today. The reflection notes we're looking at ask you some highly confronting questions.
Yeah, they really make you pause.
Like, where are you most tempted to seek people's approval? Your work, or your faith, or your daily life, a carefully managed performance? Or does it flow from genuine devotion?
It forces us to examine the mechanics of our own legacy, I think. We spend so much energy trying to construct a narrative that other people will admire.
Kind of like those elites managing the festival crowds.
Precisely. But the historical record suggests that agonizing over how you'll be perceived is actually the fastest way to compromise the very actions that make you worth remembering.
Which leaves you wondering about our modern condition, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if true legacy comes from totally ignoring the crowd and acting with uncalculated devotion, does that mean our current obsession with building a personal brand is actually the very thing guaranteeing will be forgotten?